Have you ever had a dream that felt so real that it scared you into thinking it might be a bad omen? I want to share a strange experience that still keeps me from sleeping peacefully. Imagine if you were in my position. Would you believe that a dream could predict death? Listen to this story until the end, and then decide for yourself. Was it just a coincidence, or was it fate? I remember it vividly. That night, Portland was drizzled with rain. The cold air pressed against my apartment window, creating a soft, repetitive tapping sound. I had just finished a work deadline, my head was heavy, and my body was exhausted. I collapsed onto my bed without a second thought. The lamp beside the bed was still on, casting a dim yellow glow that usually made me feel comfortable. But for some reason, that night, the light only made the shadows on the wall seem to move, as if something was watching me. My eyes eventually closed, and I fell straight into a dream that felt unnervingly real. It wasn't hazy or vague, it was like I had actually been transported somewhere else. I was standing on a long, unfamiliar road. The street was empty, as if the entire world around me had vanished. On both sides stood rows of old maple trees, their branches swaying gently in the wind, making a rustling sound that resembled whispers right in my ear. The ground beneath my feet was wet, maybe from rain, but strangely, I didn't feel cold. Streetlights lined the sidewalk, but their glow was weak, and some flickered like they were about to burn out. Every time a light blinked, the shadows of the trees, and even my own body, seemed to shift, creating the eerie illusion that someone else was walking beside me. The atmosphere made the hair on my neck stand up. I tried to calm myself by repeating, "It's just a dream, but deep down, I knew something wasn't right. At the end of the road, I could faintly see a man standing with his back to me. His body was thin, his shoulders hunched slightly, his arms dangling at his sides, and he wore an old, worn-out black jacket. I couldn't see his face, but the longer I stared, the more familiar he seemed, like I already knew him somehow. I took a step forward. My footsteps echoed far too loudly in the emptiness, making it feel like someone was following me. I stopped, the echo stopped. I walked again, the echo followed. My heartbeat quickened. Suddenly, the figure moved. Slowly, he turned his head, and his face came into view. My heart nearly stopped. It was Mr. Harris, my neighbor from the apartment next door. I remembered seeing him just yesterday afternoon, sitting on the front steps smoking. He was a quiet old man in his 70s, with pale skin and thinning silver hair. But the face I saw in that dream was not his normal face. His skin was pale and bluish, like someone who had been cold for too long. His eyes were hollow, pitch black, like two empty holes that swallowed everything looking at them. His lips were dry, cracked, trembling slightly. I wanted to scream, to ask him why he was there, but my voice was stuck in my throat. The only sound I could hear was my own breath echoing in the dream. Then suddenly, without his lips moving, I heard his voice, not in the air, but directly in my ear, as if he were whispering just for me. His voice was raspy, cold, and soft. "Tomorrow, I will die." I froze. His words echoed over and over in my head, like a haunting refrain that wouldn't stop. And as his voice faded, the streetlights around me began to shut off one by one. First at the far end of the road, then closer, creeping toward where I stood. The trees grew darker, the air colder, and before I could approach him, Mr. Harris vanished, swallowed by the darkness. I tried to run, but my legs felt heavy, like they were sinking into mud. My breath grew short, my chest tight. The world around me crumbled. Lights extinguished, trees disappeared, until all that remained was the howling wind, which morphed into a long, guttural roar. And just as the darkness consumed everything, I woke up, my body drenched in cold sweat. The clock on my wall read 3:07 a.m. I sat frozen, staring at the ticking hands, trying to steady my racing heart. I was still gasping for breath on the bed when I noticed it was exactly 3:07 a.m., sweat clinging to my entire body. My heart was pounding so hard, and it felt like every second of that night stretched endlessly. I sat at the edge of my bed, trying to calm myself with deep breaths, but every sound in the apartment felt sinister. The dripping from the pipes, the distant cars on the wet street, even the sigh of the wind slipping through the window cracks. All of it sounded like faint whispers stalking me, reminding me of the mysterious voice in my dream. The next morning, I tried to act normal. I made coffee, sat at the kitchen table, and told myself it was just a dream. It wasn't real, everything will be fine, but that feeling still clung to my chest, heavy, unexplainable. Something was wrong, something logic couldn't fight. As I stepped out of my apartment, I noticed the usually quiet hallway buzzing with unusual activity. Police officers and paramedics were gathered at the door of Mr. Harris' apartment, the very man I had seen in my dream. Some neighbors looked restless, whispering in hushed voices, while others just stood there, staring in disbelief. My heart leapt into my throat. It felt like I was trapped between dream and reality, as if these walls had become silent witnesses to something impossible. I walked closer, straining to hear what was happening. An elderly neighbor turned to me and said with a trembling voice, "Are you Mr. Harris' neighbor? He was found dead last night, in his apartment." My body froze. It was as if the world around me had stopped. A police officer then explained briefly that Mr. Harris had been found by cleaning staff that morning, around 3 a.m., the exact time I had woken from the dream. I swallowed hard, replaying every detail the night before. His figure, his whispered words, that empty road, it was all the same. I tried to move closer to Mr. Harris' apartment, desperate to see with my own eyes, but a police officer stopped me. I could only stand in the hallway, staring at the curtains covering his window. Then, the police and paramedics carried out Mr. Harris' body. His face was pale, his eyes shut, his lips slightly parted, and his hands stiff. Those moments passed in slow motion. Fear kept tightening its grip on me. The images from last night's dream came back, clinging to my eyelids, and I felt the rush of adrenaline. I realized this wasn't just a coincidence. This was real. I had just witnessed a dream's prophecy come true. And what's even scarier, I began to feel that this world is filled with things beyond what logic can explain. After all the police left and the hallway went silent again, I was still standing there, body trembling, staring blankly at Mr. Harris' apartment. Every step I took back to my own place felt heavy. When I shut the door, it felt like something was moving in the hallway. Soft footsteps, a faint sigh, but no one was there. I turned back, yet the hall remained empty. Since that day, I've always gone to sleep with a sense of dread. Every time I close my eyes, the dark road, the flickering light, and Mr. Harris' figure return in my mind. I even started setting strict sleep times, making sure I never stayed up past 11 p.m., afraid of seeing something terrifying again. And the most horrifying thing, I felt that whether my eyes were open or closed, the dream would always return, delivering a warning I couldn't escape. I began to think, maybe the dream wasn't just a warning for Mr. Harris. Maybe it was the world's way of telling me that something exists beyond human understanding. Something that could predict death, something that could approach us in the form of shadows and whispers that pierce straight into the soul. I closed my eyes for a moment, and the whisper returned inside my head, faint but clear. "Tomorrow, I will die," and this time, I wasn't sure who it meant. Was it Mr. Harris or me? Since the night of Mr. Harris' death, my life completely changed. I felt as if every corner of my apartment was filled with something unseen, but always there. Each time I closed my eyes, that dark road appeared again. The dim flickering streetlight, the branches swaying gently, and Mr. Harris standing there, staring at me with hollow eyes. Days passed, but I never slept peacefully again. I started placing alarms in every corner of my room, leaving the lights on all night. Sometimes even letting the TV run just to hear human voices so the silence wouldn't feel so suffocating. Yet the fear still haunted me. The shadow was always there at the edge of my sight, even when I walked down the apartment hallway. One day, I received a call from the police. The voice on the other end sounded serious and slightly hesitant. They told me they had found Mr. Harris' notebook, a small book he wrote in every night. It contained strange dream entries, not only about himself but also about his neighbors. And inside that book, there were notes about me. I was stunned, my body shaking. The police said, "He wrote down the exact same date and time as the dream you had last week." I couldn't respond. It was as if reality and dream overlapped, collapsing into one. That notebook felt like a warning, but a warning too terrifying to ignore. The next night, I tried to go to bed earlier, leaving the lights on, shutting all the curtains. But the moment I drifted off, I was back on that road again. The empty street, the drizzle soaking my hair, and the flickering streetlight. Out of the darkness, Mr. Harris appeared. This time, he was standing closer, staring with those hollow eyes that pierced through my soul. His lips moved, and I heard the whisper, louder than ever before. "Tomorrow, it's your turn." I jolted awake, body trembling, cold sweat dripping down my face, my heart pounding wildly out of control. I scanned my room, trying to convince myself it was just a dream. But that feeling never left. That night, I knew something was waiting for me, something I couldn't fight. The days that followed felt like hell. I never dared to sleep late, never dared to keep my eyes closed for more than a few minutes. Every step I took in the apartment hallway felt followed by a shadow. Even in the bathroom, the reflection in the mirror seemed off. Something in my eyes didn't belong to me. Somehow, I knew Mr. Harris' death was just the beginning of something much more terrifying. One night, I sat by the window, watching the rain outside. I tried calming myself by writing in my diary, recording everything that had happened. But then I saw it again, the shadow outside the window, resembling Mr. Harris' figure, just for a split second, but enough to make my heart stop. I turned, but the hallway was empty. Only the faint sound of footsteps echoed on the wooden floor of the apartment, even though I was alone. That's when I began to realize the most horrifying truth. The dream wasn't just predicting other people's deaths. It was a message, and I was the next target. Every detail in that dream, the flickering streetlight, the sound of wind, even Mr. Harris' words, were signs. Signs that death doesn't always arrive suddenly, but through subtle whispers waiting at the edge of night. I tried telling my friends, but no one believed me. They said it was stress, an overactive imagination, or just nightmares. But I knew, I could feel the terror in my body, in every heartbeat, in every breath I took. I even began timing my sleep, counting down every second of the night, praying I could pass 3 a.m. without being pulled back into the dream. And tonight, I'm writing all of this down for you. I want you to know, the dream is real. I already saw Mr. Harris' death unfold exactly as I dreamed it. And I know, one day, the whisper will return. This time, not about a neighbor, not about someone else, but about me. I closed my diary, and then I heard it, the soft footsteps in the hallway. My heart raced. I turned toward the window, and there, beyond the glass blurred by rain, I saw a figure staring back at me. Its eyes were hollow, its lips moved, and I heard it again, directly in my head. "Tomorrow, it's your turn." And I realized this was no longer a dream. This was reality, waiting at the edge of the night.